So no sponsors. Got the Arrma Limitless V2. It says it does 110 miles out the box, but that will be equivalent to 177 kilometers per hour. And this is going to be achieved with altering conditions with recommended electronics. So even though it says 110 plus out the box, that is kind of like a sales gimmick. You do need your electronics. It is a roller. As you can see, it's a roller rattle can. So that means that the vehicle is going to come with a clear body. Your window mask and decals are included. Painted body is not included. So that is one of the things where you'll have to paint that. And you'll have to use paint for polycarbonate or Lexan. You can find out at your local hobby shop. You can find it online. And that thing, it is kind of where we're at right now in electronics and speed controllers. You buy a stock RC, you're going to run into a problem. Might not be fast enough, you're going to have to upgrade it. So I tend to kind of lean towards a roller perspective of building something if you're new into RC or you're trying to get into RC. If you're trying to go and bash on the parking lot, this is not what you want. You're going to have to buy electronics, going to have to buy a controller, and it will get pricey quick. If you want something stock, just buy the infraction or the felony, drive it. On the new Arrma Limitless, what they're doing a little bit different is they've extended the drivetrain center shaft. And what I was running before is a Pinocchio spool, a PPS motor mount, or running a Scorched RC motor mount, rotor lock, lock differentials. On this one, they're giving you the GP5 differentials, and honestly, I have that in the build. This is actually let me change this. This is actually Limitless release build. This is just going to be one of those things I built before the Limitless became the Limitless. I built this Scorched RC rear end, pretty much. I used Scorched RC diff locker, bigger output shafts for the CV joints, stiffer springs. I used aluminum GPM diff housing, and you can see we're using the Scorched RC lock differential is what it's going to be called. And pretty much there's no differential. If I turn the right and I turn the left, nothing's going to pretty much turn. On a differential, if I turn the right, it might turn. Hold to left, it's going to stop, slow it down. So that's one thing you want to run into on speed run builds is you're going to have a lock differential, stiffer rear end. And one thing I would say is going down the street, having a lock differential, if this wheel turns faster than that wheel, the car is going to be moving left and right. And in speed run, I've found that lock differential is not the best for everyone, depending on what surface, what tires you're using, and that nature. But this one is running a GP5. Check this out, the infraction. Now the Limitless, the V2, has an infraction differential. So it's nothing really new that we're changing. It's just some of the changes that they've seen the speedrunners doing. So yeah, the Pinocchio spool, that's going to give you a longer shaft versus running the stock Arrma Limitless shaft. Get one of those real quick. So you can kind of see I got the Scorched RC shaft. This is what you would run in place of the stock drive shaft. In place of the stock drive shaft, you're going to have a smaller shaft on one side, a bigger one on the other. And what Scorched did is they made this shaft in the middle for your gears, or if you want to call it a lock spool, lock center differential. But I would say it would be more of a spool if I put a gear on here. So that's where you see on this one, you'll have that longer spool. It's mimicking the Scorched RC or aftermarket Arrma Limitless and Fraction Felony center spool. So that's where we're seeing this. That's an upgrade, so you're not doing that out the box. It has a motor mount that's mimicking like the PPS motor mount. And then we have that GP5 gearing. The GP5 gearing is going to have a more aggressive torque ratio and like output speed. So I found like on Limitless, it might be a little bit faster. One thing that they upgraded was a D-safe input shaft. See on the infraction, I got a D-safe input shaft. And on this housing, it's going to have a D shape so this doesn't spin. You have that lock which is from this Allen, which is going to lock down in that D-shaped flat spot, so this won't spin. So that's pretty good on high-speed runs. One thing I don't really know if I'm going to use is the clear body or the chassis. I do use a lot of scorched seat parts, which is, this is supposed to mimic not using a lot of aftermarket parts. It's going to be plug and play. One thing that they do use is they give you the Hoons. Honestly, everyone knows that the Hoons is not going to go past 120 miles plus, if that, besides blowing out. You can see the 34 mod 1 spool versus the new 39 mod 1 spool, which is longer. And like I said, it is mimicking what we would do aftermarket, is put a longer spool on here, because with the shorter spool, longer shaft, you have more vibration. If you make this middle shaft longer, you have less axle, less front axle, less vibration, and this is going to be a little bit thicker. Front half of it is still looking about the same. The spoiler on the back still looks about the same. So yeah, let's just get this open. Oops. So what do we have here? Basic diff shims. If you're going to add extra shims, tie to your gear mesh. Our basic Arrma tools. These do come in handy. We have some spare gears, spoilers. We have our decals if we're going to paint this body. So we'll get that out the way and opening it up. As we can tell, it's a clear body. It's a roller can body. Take off that. That is nice. Okay, so let's get this out the box. Every Arrma Limitless is going to come with these straps on it. I mean, I would be honest with you, building an Arrma Limitless or infraction with all these aftermarket parts is going to be pretty costly. You're going to have to grab a stock Limitless. Then you're going to have to upgrade the steering, upgrade the suspension. Get that out the box. Upgrade the chassis, and to be honest, like, starting with the roller, this can be your best bet. You can turn this easily into a GT. I do like the fact that they didn't put these in there, because these are a pain to try to get out. As far as like trying to get these out, these bodies, these are a pain. This 2 mil Lexan body. So one thing I would say too is if you're doing spree runs, use the Arrma diff pins. These are pretty thick. If you use that aftermarket stuff, honestly, I had these open up, fly off on you due to using cheap diff pins. So this is a pretty thick body. It's 2 mil Lexan, so that is a plus. So I would say off the back, this is pretty good. 39 tooth is going to be a little bit excessive if you're doing speed runs. We're going to run 1-to-1. This is actually good. They give you Spectrum aluminum stern sable. Broomer's is front is a little bit stiffer than the rear. I would call that BS. The front is not as stiff as the rear. These Hoons, not going to use. Spoiler, got to trim down to reduce that downforce. So the D-Save, as you can see on the Limitless rear end that I've built, that is an improvement. That is different. That center differential is also different versus the stock Limitless spool. This motor mount, it is different. Front end's a little bit different. So let's just kind of get into it on removing this. And on this build, I'm gonna just kind of keep it mediocre. A lot of people, as you can tell on YouTube and stuff, I've already been building it. I just literally don't have the time. So what I'm gonna do is just do a mediocre build. I don't know if I want to do a 70-80 or 40-70 or 40-80 as far as motor setup, but an XLX2 to try to keep it as stock as possible. One thing you're going to need is a controller, ESC, a motor, gearing. 39 is kind of high for doing speed runs. You want to do kind of close to 1-to-1. But I'm not going to tell you what gearing to run. I don't want to be responsible if you burn up your ESC, your motor, things of that nature. In this case, we're going to delete these hoons. Get an XLX2 in there, or maybe something aftermarket. A motor, maybe a 1721, or we can do a Castle. Give me 1 second. We can do 1721, which is a 2400 kV. Or we can do this XLX2, which is pretty known in the speedrun game. If you don't know, look into it. Castle ESC, Monster Mamba X, XLX2. This comes with all your wiring that you're going to need to solder up XLX2, which will shorten these wires. I'll show you in the video on how to shorten these wires. Let's get that out the way. What they're saying that you can get away with is running the stock Spectrum ESC, the female stuff, and you'll make 110. Don't get me wrong, if you have it laying around, this is going to be from an infraction. You can get this. There's 150 amp ESC, SPMX-SE1150. So I'm not using that. I don't want to waste my time. But you can tell if we were to put this XLX2 in there, everyone's probably going to go with that. It fits. If I put this 1721 in here, it fits. That would be something, I would say. If you want out the box XLX2, 1721, some high-end batteries in the remote, a good servo, and you're good.